Yeah, I did end up like sending a link out to like a few other people. Um, I think some people said they was at work. Luckily I'm off today, but
Right.
other than that, I think there was like and there was actually a chick that actually responded too.
Oh, for real.
She yeah, she wanted to just ask for what the topic is, and she
So what's the
sound.
topic?
Oh, it's pretty much kind of open, man. I was kind of thinking of one thing. It was kind of like a tease topic. Uh, I was gonna call this one "How can you teach that?"
Oh, right.
But I was like, I don't know. I'll just stick it with like open topic because my whole plan is to basically kind of go back and hey, what's up, Coley? My whole plan is actually going to go back to all these open topic titles and actually name them things that we actually spoke about. You know, a main title of it, and also like a little sad something that we also spoke about. But that's neither here nor there yet. I figure by the end of the week, I would go back and just start renaming all this stuff. Because a lot of times when people look at like open title or open topic, they're like, "Oh man, I don't know what I'm gonna get into," and really people are looking for something. So I
Right. Right.
don't know, but yeah, like last time, I think was it last night or the night? Yeah, I think it was the night before. It was the night before. Um, I think we were talking about no, it was the night before that. It was the night before that. I think we were talking about like free will, and I think there was a guy named Don Bird. Yeah, Don Bird. I actually ended up debating him one time, but yeah, me and him I had a little discussion about it, and I started to ask him some interesting questions about it. And we had looked at Genesis 50, and so I took him to Philemon 1:14, and then after that he had to leave, and then I ended it out with going to Isaiah chapter 30. That kind of spoke about how like the Israelites made this plan, but it wasn't God's plan. So how could you say God planned every single thing that happens on the planet Earth? There are things that God knows about. Doesn't mean like He, made those people plan that stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So but unfortunately, he was gone by then. By the time I ended up doing that. Oh, okay. So we finally got the other dude, uh, A Kaz or H-Az. What's going on, man?
Yo, man, what's good? What's good? Shalom, shalom.
Peace to you, bro. Shoot.
Hey, hey, shoot, I'm at work driving, so you know what I'm saying. So I'm gonna try my best.
Okay. Oh yeah, you do Uber and Lyft, or were you like a trucker?
Yeah,
You do truck?
yeah.
Oh, that's what's up. How long you been doing that?
I'm gonna mute my phone right quick.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. It's all right. Yeah. But but yeah, it was a good discussion. And after that, I ended up talking with I think his name was shoot, I forget. But he ended up being basically very offended about like a lot of what goes on in, one West camps, and particularly like how a lot of the young people are, not doing very good, and I guess in their conduct in that. And he kind of spoke about that, about just the way that they go about you know relationships toward marriage and stuff, and all kinds of other little things. um
Mhm.
he had spoke about like how they end up getting into polygamy a lot, and that just kind of covers up certain sins that they don't want to conquer or overcome. He laid out a lot of frustrations, but even though he was a professing Hebrew himself, and so I kind of like spoke about some frustrations that happen, in the Christian world, and I tried to show him like, by the end of the day, the devil, he just doesn't care. You know what I'm saying? For
Mhm.
him, it's sin is sin. So people who end up leaving the church saying the church is a problem, you could make every church disappear, and you'll still find like the problem is sin, and sinful people. You know, it's not about like a church or anything, but it takes people to actually go to, camps and synagogues and all this other stuff, actually for it to dawn on them and see like, oh, wait a minute, dang, this is the same problem that Pastor Creflo so-and-so has, and then what's it doing over here? And the devil doesn't care. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was good, man. It was really good, really eye-opening. Jay, man, I do see you in the chat. Yes, you can definitely get a link. Let me go ahead and send that to you. Matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and put the link in the chat. I mean, if anybody wants to come on in, I'll go ahead and put the link in there, But other than that, man, I wanted to talk to you about, a little topic that we were kind of talking about, basically particular in adoptionism. And I kind of remember, you were going over some of those things. And, I'm just going to ask you off the bat, for one, like, is it true that a lot of your studies in adoptionism comes from, Bart Ehrman and what he has put out about adoptionism?
Yes, that is true.
Okay. And my next question is, do you also study adoptionism because historically it's always tied to the Ebionites?
No, actually, in answer completely to your first question, yes, Bart Ehrman is the first that brought it to my attention, and he cited other sources because, just saying this person, this scholar, this theologian, this critical Bible textual critic said such and such and such, that's appeal to authority if you don't have the evidence behind what their positioning is. Right. And so I didn't just take Bart Ehrman's word for it because, quite frankly, I disagree with some of his conclusions that he makes off of his evidence. I don't conclude that, there's no way that we can, substantiate, our belief systems and things of that nature. I disagree with that. He doesn't. He says that Peter didn't write Second Peter or First Peter. He says for sure Second Peter, but First Peter, I disagree with that. So there's quite a few things that I disagree with Bart on, but he does bring a lot of evidence, empirical evidence that he brings to the table, which we are able to then review. And so that being said, the first place where we find adoptionism is in the book itself, in the pre-literary Christological traditions of the apostles themselves, of the first century disciples. And we see that, yes, in the Nazarenes who are mentioned in the Bible. We hear about these Nazarenes. These Nazarenes split in the first century. Somewhere toward the end of the first century, beginning of the second century, they split over the virgin birth, with the Nazarenes holding to the virgin birth and the Ebionites holding to Joseph being the biological father of Hamashiach. We also see a few other early Christian sects. We see this as a thread throughout early Christendom, period. The only place that we don't see it is the Greek philosopher, the Greco-Roman Church, that held to the Trinity doctrine of Plato that came through the way of Philo. And so Philo, the Hebrew, who introduced this into Judaism, and those Hebrew folk and some proselytes, things of that nature, was subscribing to those the Platonic Trinity, which he got from Mitzrayim or Egypt. And so, I deal with those evidences, not just those of the second century, third and fourth century Nazarenes, Ebionites. What's the other ones the church fathers talk about? Cerinthian, all of those folks. They disagreed. They had their disagreements. All of them had their disagreements. But one thing that they agreed on was the fact that one thing that they agreed on was that Christ was born a man, Yeshua was born a man, and he became the Son of God, or he was adopted to be the Son of God, either at his baptism or his resurrection. They didn't agree
Okay.
on. They didn't agree on that either.
So when you say the Son of God, do you mean like the Messiah, or do you mean like the Son of God in some other meaning?
I mean it in adoption. You have that in the text.
No, I know
We
what
have that.
you no, I know what you mean when you say you mean it in adoption. I'm asking you what that means. Like, when you say that that phrase, that title, Son of God, does that mean Son of God in the sense of the Messiah, or does it mean Son of God in some other type of meaning? Like,
Both,
okay,
both. Yeah, it
okay,
means the B'nai Elohim, which is
yeah,
the Son of God, and the Messiah. So
okay,
he was chosen to be the Messiah according to, I think it's Acts chapter number 5. Cephas in his speech that's recorded in Acts tell us that he became the Prince of Egypt. Prince of Egypt, Lord have mercy. The Prince of Israel and the King of Israel at his resurrection. Peter Cephas was clear on that in Acts chapter number 5.
okay. So I guess my next question is, the thing is, so if Jesus, basically became the Son of God
Mhm.
when he was baptized at age 30, basically, would it be safe to conclude that he was not the Son of God before his baptism?
No, he wasn't.
Okay, okay. So before then, he was just Jesus, but after that, after the baptism, he was Jesus, like the Son of God.
Well, if you're going by the Gospels,
Yeah,
then the Gospels say he became the Son at the baptism. If you go by the historical records that we find in Acts or the epistles that the apostles wrote, namely Paul, and I think is Acts Romans chapter number 1, I want to say.
right.
Um, Chapter number 1, where Paul himself quotes this pre-literary Christological tradition. And we know that it's pre-literary Christological tradition because Paul doesn't speak like this in any of his other letters, but yet he's stating this creed, this earlier creed that we find, and he says the resurrection. So both
Right.
Peter and Paul were in agreement as far as them believing that Yeshua became the Christ or the Messiah at his resurrection.
Okay.
The gospel writers say during his baptism. So there's a discrepancy there, but both of those, even though one say resurrection, one say baptism, they both are in agreement with adoptionism, which means
Right.
that Christ was adopted to be the Son of the Most High.
Okay. So basically, if I, let's just say me as a Christian, let's just say like I do not believe that Jesus became like the Son of God or adopted by God at baptism. He always was that, or he always had that. You know, what would be some things that you would point out and say, hey, that's problematic, and why? Like, why would, what would be some things that I would, get wrong about, like, how would that affect Jesus, uh, from your view, just from scripture? Like, what would that do? Like, why would that be wrong? Like, Matt, that's
Okay.
wrong because that would make Jesus blah, blah, or whatever.
Right. Well, I think that the Bible is clear. It doesn't teach that we must believe that Hamashiach, Yeshua, the Christ, was divine or God or God the Son, the third part or second part, wherever you guys have him at the Trinity. It doesn't tell us that. What it specifically says in the constant theme throughout the Brit Hadassah or the New Testament is that we must understand that he was a man. And these pre-literary texts that I have that we can go through explains that explicitly. They proclaim his humanity. And there was a sect in the first century. I think you would call them a part of the Gnostic sect. They had similar ideas, but not exactly the same. They were called Docetists. And what they were doing was denying the very deity, denying the very humanity of Christ, and focusing on saying the fact that he was God, and he was God. He came down from Shemayim, that's the heavens, as God, And so therefore he only appeared to be a man. And First John deals with that. A couple other texts deals with that and explicitly tell us that we have to understand that he was a human. And the reason, the importance of that is because you have a human keeping the commandments. And when you make him God, you take obedience outside of the realm of humanity and place it only in the realm of the divine. And that's actually anti-biblical to what the Bible teaches. And so I think that's where I would draw that. It's that the apostles themselves, with whom we're supposed to follow, we're supposed to stay steadfast in the apostles' doctrine. And so, the apostles' doctrine is that Christ was just a man, that Yeshua, not Christ, but Yeshua was just a man who became Christ, who became the anointed one, who became the Messiah, the divine son of the Elohim, either at his baptism or at his resurrection. And the Bible is clear on that. And I think when you make up doctrines that go against that, then you're going against what the apostles actually taught. And then that's where we have a problem. And the main problem, like I said, once again, is most of the folk that hold to this, hold to the pre-existent, co-eternal, coexist.
Oh, you're breaking up.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you?
Sam.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, you're good now. You're good again. Oh, wait a minute.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So
okay, I don't know what happened. Go ahead.
Yeah,
yep.
I'm still here. Yeah, so that's the issue that we will have. The major issue that I see with that thinking is that you take obedience outside of the realm of human beings and make it a God thing. Oh, he was God. That's why he could keep the commandments. That's why, no, he was a human being that showed humans how to keep the commandments, who became the Son of God as an example to show us the way of becoming a son of God, because he's the first fruit of us. And by his example, and the spirit that was in him and upon him, he gave us the power to become the B'nai Elohim as well. And that's what the Bible teaches.
So basically, if I can really get you straight, you basically say a quote that, the Gospels and the apostles teach, and I guess Christ himself teaches that, Christ was just a man who became the Christ, who became the Messiah, and also who became the Son of God. So he basically, had started out as just a man, and then eventually he became the Messiah, and then after that he became the Son of God, and that's what you say that the Bible teaches. So right. So I guess my first question would be, what would you do with, I would start with basically there's a text somewhere that basically, I think it's in Mark, and in Mark chapter 1, and before anything, this text basically just says that Jesus is the Son of God. I'll go ahead and read it to you. I'll try to go to just kind of bring it up here, and I want to know what you think about it. And like I said, these questions I have are gonna get a bit more interesting, So I'm just kind of start real light right now. And so this is Mark chapter 1, verse 1, and it says, "The beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, as it is written in the prophets. Behold, I will send my message before thy face, blah, blah, blah." I think it's interesting that, Mark here is basically saying that Jesus, he's calling him the Christ, he's calling him the Son of God. And, this was before any kind of, baptizing at all. As a matter of fact, he starts out with John the Baptist and baptizing people, So I just wanted to know what you thought about that when you read that versus what you're saying.
Okay. First of all, when we exegete the text, we got to know the context. The context of this is that Mark is writing after the fact. Although
Right.
although he's given an account of events that took place before the baptism, while Mark is writing, at the time that Mark is writing, the resurrection, the baptism and the resurrection has already passed. So Mark is writing from he's doing a revisit of history that has already taken place. So that's
Right.
not an issue whatsoever.
Okay. Okay. Now, my next question is, so based on my
And
studies, right?
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Because basically, I had thought the same thing. I just wanted to see what you would say about it anyway.
Mhm.
So my next question is this. So this is like a study that I've been reading, and as I read it, there's going to be some things that I pick out and just kind of ask you a question about, and it does have a lot to do with like Paul's epistles and things. Um, and yes, I am going to go ahead and get into the Gospels themselves, but first, I at least wanted to start out with this, and
Mhm.
I do believe this comes from Bible archaeology. I forget where I got this from, but it's in my Google Keep notes. And it simply says here that it says most scholars at present are coming to the realization that Paul was consistent with and faithful to the early teachings of Jesus, rather than being the founder of Christianity divorced from its Jewish matrix or whatever. It says that the participle horithinos can mean appointed. It also carries the same meaning as designated or declared. So the resurrection was believed to be a definitive event for Jesus himself, that it was designated or declared him to be the Son of God. Now, there's something called the Carmen Christi, and it is in Philippians chapter 2, verses 6 through 11. And before I continue to read this, I'm just going to go ahead and take some time to read Philippians chapter 2, verse 6 to 11. So that way people can be like familiar with what we're talking about as we flow through the article. And so Philippians chapter 2, verse 6 through 11. And by the way, I will be reading from the ESV if that's okay. It says here,
Yeah, that's my favorite.
this is talking about Jesus. It says, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but made himself nothing, taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross.
Now watch this verse right
Therefore,
here.
Therefore, God has
Uh-huh.
highly exalted him and
Mm-hmm.
bestowed on him the name that is
Mm-hmm.
above every name, so that at
Mm-hmm.
the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Therefore, my beloved, even I think it was just verse 11, right? And so if I continue the article just simply says that it is particularly evident that, it says that this is also regarded by scholarship as pre-Pauline. The same emphasis is evident. It is particularly that at this event of his exaltation that Jesus receives, quote, the name that is above every name, Philippians 2:9, and receives a universal confession that he's Lord, verse 11. Thus, the resurrection exaltation of Jesus is the highlight and the definitive moment of the expression of his true identity. The point reinforces my thesis that the resurrection is a causal factor to the worship of Jesus in the light of his identity. Paul not only links the Son of God of Jesus to his resurrection by his reference to the creed in Romans chapter 1, verse 3 through 4, but
Right.
later, Paul will link the use of the divine title Lord to the resurrection of Jesus as well in Romans 10:9. And so there's no reason, as Ehrman contends, for thinking Paul tampered with the creed of Romans chapter 1, verse 3 and 4 because of the use of the word phrase empower. It is
Okay.
noteworthy that while Bart Ehrman believes and makes it a central tenet of his Oh, what in the world? Hey, y'all, I have to go on pause for a very important call. Give
Okay.
me one moment.
Okay. For those of you guys that are out there, while bro is actually handling his call, we'll go through Philippians 2:1. If there be any consolation in Christ, if any comfort of love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any bowels and mercy, fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded. Notice that, like-minded, have the same mind, having the same love, being of one accord, one mind. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, each esteem other better than themselves. Philippians chapter number 2, verse number 4. Every man on his own thing, but every man also on the things of others. One of the key verses here. Let this mind be in which was she. Now, in this text, we just was told in verse 5 that mindset. We got to have the mindset that we're going to conform to the image of the Elohim, which is an image of his son, right? To the image of the Elohim. We're supposed to have that divine nature Peter talked about. Thought it not robbery to be equal with him. Okay. Now, when we talk about equal, he's not talking about of the same substance, homoousios, and all of that other kind of stuff. What he's talking about is being in line and being in agreement. That's what this word equal here is dealing with, being in agreement with the Elohim, but made of himself no representation, verse 7, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. Now watch this. Here's that adoptionist view right here in this text right here. So the author, which I believe is Paul in this Philippians, wherefore the Elohim have also highly exalted, right? He was exalted. Remember the adoptionist view? He was exalted. Wherefore the Elohim have highly exalted him and given him a name which is above every name. So therefore, Yeshua had to be exalted. So here in this text, we still find every time you see that exalted there, that's telling you that he started off at a place that was lower than where he ended up at. And this is what the scholars call a low Christology, which is why some historians, I think it was Eusebius, one of them, said that the Ebionites was called Ebionites because they held a low view of Christ. And we all know, for those of you historians and Bible scholars and Bible historians out there that understand the history of the first century there, you will realize that that the Ebionites were one of the first sects in Christendom. They
Hello,
split
guys.
off
Hello.
from the Nazarenes.
Hey.
They were
Hello.
one and the same with the Nazarenes that we read in the
Hey,
book.
Sam.
And they held a low
Hold on.
theology.
Time
What
out.
they believed is that,
Sam.
same way I believe, this is why I believe it, is
Yes,
that
hello, Sam. Can
Yeshua
you hear me?
became the Christ at some certain point
Sam.
in his. Go ahead, bro.
Oh yeah, Sam. Yeah, I was trying to say. Yeah, hey, I just got off the phone from an important call.
Right.
Um, I am unfortunately gonna have to go ahead and put this on hold.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but what I will do is we will continue this. I'm gonna try to say sometime later on this week. I do apologize,
No, bro. Take care
but
of your
I
business,
definitely do
bro.
have to go because
Okay.
because it's so short. And wow, and there's Renzo. Wow, he's gonna. Oh man, this looks so bad.
Hey, tell
Oh
Renzo,
gosh.
I'll just start the live and he can jump on there and we can
Yeah, you
have
guys
this
can never do
conversation.
that.
And then
I
maybe you
definitely
can jump in when
apologize.
you get a chance. Okay,
Yep.
bro.
Once again, I apologize to everybody. But yeah, I do have to go. I have to go ahead and handle something. Peace and blessings, everyone. Please stay safe from the coronavirus. I'll be praying for you all. Peace and blessings, guys. All right.
Peace.
Do do do.